starting with the seed of life. You hopefully drew this in the first segment, and hopefully you've drawn a couple more on your own and gotten a little bit more familiar with the process of these beautiful 7 circles coming together. So you're going to start with a seed of life, and you want to use a 1-inch radius. Okay, so we're going to have a 2-inch diameter, 2-inch wide circle. So 1-inch radius on your compass. Go ahead and eyeball the center of the paper. It doesn't have to be perfect. And create your first seed. One thing that's useful is to start your second circle down here at the bottom of the first circle. Right, so your compass point goes right down here. Again, you can kind of eyeball it. And what that's going to do is it's going to give you this vertical orientation of the seed. And certainly on your own pace, you don't have to orient the seed of life in any one direction. But here, because the rest of the instructions are based on a vertical orientation, try to start your second circle. Start your second circle down here at the vertical bottom of your first circle. Okay. And as you're drawing your seed of life, take a nice deep breath and try and move back and forth between the practice of actually drawing the geometry and connecting with your larger awareness that you're drawing, right? So beginning to open your sensory system to observing your process and having the larger picture in addition to drawing these beautiful circles and these beautiful geometries. So hopefully you've got your seed by now. And what we're going to do is you're going to use a ruler and you're going to use a 9-inch line, right? And what that means is that you're going to bisect, we're going to bisect the shape by 9 inches, which means 4.5 inches will line up with the center of the shape. Okay, so it's going to be a 9-inch line, and you're going to bisect the shape with the guidance of these inside petals, right? So you're going to cut these in half, and you're going to do that on each angle or each axis, right? So you're going to do that 3 different times on the vertical orientation and on the right bias and on the left bias. So hopefully now you've got a 9-inch line where the 4.5-inch mark lines up with the center, and you've cut the shape using the petals to divide the shape. Okay, so hopefully it looks like this. So now you're going to take your compass and you're going to put the point down here where the circle intersects with the vertical line. Okay, compass point's going to go here, and then the pencil finds its way onto the line, and then you're going to draw a circle. Okay, so compass points here, and then you want to do that 5 more times. So you're going to have 6 circles created by that intersection point. Now, it's great to try for precision, but it's not necessary, and it's certainly unlikely on your first drawing, right? The circles are probably not going to touch each other. You can kind of get close. If they are touching, awesome. And if not, it's just reason to keep practicing. It's also reason to employ that fundamental loving practice of setting your critical voice aside, right? This is where it starts to show up and we're like, oh shit, nothing's matching up here. That's one of the reasons I love drawing sacred geometry, is because the geometry is so clean that it just reflects our process back to us. So again, bringing in your observing self, beginning to notice your internal dialogue. If you're starting to be critical, or if you've started a long time ago being critical, perhaps inviting a compassionate witness, right? And saying, oh man, this is the first one I've done. Like, oh man, what's the kind thing to say? Figure out a kind thing for yourself and balance out the critical voice. And if you don't have a critical voice going, awesome. come up with some kind things too. So here we've got our 6 circles, that meaning our second round of circles. So we've got the seed, meaning the first round, the second round of these circles there. And now we're going to create a third round. But this is a top secret trick. You want the pencil point now to go on the intersection of the vertical line and the outer point of the circle. And then your compass point is going to find its way onto the line, right? So it'll be a standalone circle, and then you're going to do that 5 more times so that you've got the last ring of circles, creating the 13 circles of Metatron's cube. Again, this doesn't have to be precise. One of the things that you actually end up doing for quite a while as you're practicing is fudging. There's the fudge factor. So you can kind of line the circles up. You can put the compass point a little bit off or a little bit to the right or left of the line if it's going to make the circles line up. So you have absolute permission to fudge the geometry to get it close to looking precise. Now, the great news of Metatron's cube is that you do not need precision to get the shape. It's just fantastic that way. You can actually have the shape go halfway off the page and you'll still get the geometries, right? It's just so user-friendly. So hopefully by now you've got your 6 circles. And what we're going to do now is, if you have any little remnant bits of the lines that extend beyond the center of the circle here, go ahead and erase them. You basically want the line to extend to the center of the circles, of the outer ring. And what I recommend is that you darken in the center points of the circles, okay, on the outer ring as well as the inner ring that we did before it. So darken in the center points because you're going to want to use those as the points to create the platonic solids that we're just about to get into. So once you've got your line bits erased to the center points of the outer circle, and you've got the center points of those 2 rings of circles darkened in, go ahead and choose 3 colored pencils, 3 different colored pencils, and choose 3 different colored pencils that are contrasting, right? So like a red and a yellow and a blue, right? That's obvious. And it doesn't have to be fully contrasting. It's just going to make it easier to see the shapes. So no wrong colors. I'm just giving you the heads up. And here's what I'll tell you, is that we're going to change colors with the different geometries. So what you're going to do is you're going to connect the outer points, each outer point, to create the hexagon, this nice 6-sided polygon. And with Metatron's cube, what you'll see is that there's an outer geometry and there's also an inner geometry. And part of the beauty of Metatron's cube is that all the coordinates are right there. You don't have to do any math. You simply connect the dots. It's a beautiful metaphor for life, right? So we've now connected the dots of all the outer circles. And now we're going to connect the dots to make an inside hexagon, right? So there's this beautiful mirror, this reflection of the larger and the smaller, the inner and the outer, as above, so below, creating that inside hexagon that will now give us the cube once we make the connecting lines. And it takes a little while to shift your brain from seeing a square into a cube, but I'll show you how to do it. Once you've got that inner hexagon, you want to darken in with the same color the bisecting lines, right? So that's going to look like this. And once you've got those 3 lines darkened in, you can play around visually with seeing the cube. Might take a minute, you might not be able to see it. Maybe you see it right away. Again, no wrong way to do this whatsoever. Just the fact that you're doing it is totally awesome. Okay, so that is our cube. otherwise known as the hexahedron, which is related to the element of earth. So nice and grounding way to start. And now you're going to choose your second color, and we're going to move into drawing the tetrahedron, which is the element of fire, which interestingly enough, I chose the red. So before with the hexagon, we connected every external point. Now we're going to do every other external point to create that tetrahedron, that triangle. Nice strong lines, and just as close to precise as you can get, but I want to let you off the hook. Probably isn't going to be precise, and if it is, well, just more of a reflection of how awesome you are. So here's the next tetrahedron is going to be facing downward, right? And that's going to give us that star tetrahedron. It's going to give us our Merkaba. By drawing this shape, you are on some very subtle level activating your awareness that you are an energy being, that you have a geometric light body, right? This ain't just 2D. Broaden it out, take a nice deep breath, and know that somewhere your consciousness is shifting, right? These beautiful balanced geometries, right? We are aligning the hemispheres of our brain with these perfectly proportioned shapes. And so you're probably just slightly altered in a very nice, sober way, and beginning to open your neural pathways to new realities. It's happening. And now we're going to draw the internal tetrahedron, upward facing tetrahedron that mirrors the outer upward facing tetrahedron. And again, we've got the outer as above, so below, the mirror reflected realities, calling in the marriage and the partnership of divine intelligence and the earthly embodiments of this incarnation. Then you're going to draw the second triangle pointing down for this internal star tetrahedron, Merkaba, light body. Please do research the esoteric intelligence of this shape. I've got resources in the PDFs. We're doing an intro and overview here, but it's kind of silly because this is lifetimes worth of studies in Kabbalistic traditions and mystery schools, but at least we've opened the doors. So now you want to choose your third color, pencil, to draw the icosahedron. This one's a little bit counterintuitive. This is the first shape where we're going to go from the outer points across the center to the inner points. And the way you find this is that it comes down to touch the tips of the internal tetrahedron, right? Let's go from the top point down across to the internal tip of the triangle and repeating that process on the flip side. So doing this 2 times on both sides. And then once you've got that, I'll come back to this. Once you've got that, you're going to do it from all 5 sides, right? So you're going to have this pattern that repeats itself, finding your way to the full icosahedron. So at this point, you've got quite a few lines. Perhaps the different colors pop. I think I did. So now you want to choose your third color, pencil, to draw the icosahedron. So hopefully your shape looks something like this. One little trick to tell if you've got all the lines is that from each point there will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines coming from each external point, right? So that's a little trick on how to check to see that you've got all the geometries. Let's take a nice deep breath together. And this is the place where you've spent some time focusing on which line goes where and how to make the different shapes. So I want to encourage you to sit. You can put me on pause. You can take some time at some point to sit quietly and contemplate the shape, to take some nice deep breaths, and to open your sensory system to remembering how much more is going on here. Everything that I talked about the light body, your multidimensional capacity, the fact that this shape is moving in and out of time and that it's alive and that this is the geometry of all 5 elements. It's all in here. Take some time, take some deep breaths, and expand your consciousness. You can do it. See what happens. Let yourself play visually and open your consciousness to the true potential that the geometry holds. Great job. I'll see you in the next segment.